Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I want to hear y'all. My name is Jazzy Johnson. I am an alum and graduate of the class of 2013. And it is my honor to welcome you and welcome you back to this here place that is the Black House. As we gather, we want to come to this land in a good way. So we acknowledge that we are present in this land as guests, and we honor both the land beneath us and the first people of this land. Northwestern sits on the original homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa. We honor you as the host people of this land, past and present. We gather here those of us who are present in body, as well as those members of our community who are not bodily present with us, but those whose stories linger in the ground beneath us, in the foundation of this house, and in the stairwells that no longer creak. That's right, good work. It is so good to see you and to be seen by each of you, and though we are wearing masks to care for and protect one another, if you are able, I want to invite you to look around you. Look at all who are gathered. If you're able to do so, would you catch a moment of someone's eyes, make eye contact? Make eye contact with someone who maybe was familiar or maybe who before this moment was a stranger. Feel the awkwardness. And we look at each other to know that the fight and the labor of Black students, staff, faculty, and alumni to be seen and to be welcomed here at Northwestern as fully human is what built this house. It is what renovated this house. And it is our labor together to see each other and our interconnected journeys that will build the soul force and accountability to sustain this house. So I say to you again, welcome back to the Black House. Here in this place, we remember the Black students, faculty, and staff who were already here, who yearned for, perhaps prayed for this refuge on this campus before this house was even here. Here in this here place, we remember and honor the resistance of roughly 100 Black students, many who are present with us here today, who on May 3rd and 4th of 1968 occupied the university's bursar's office, sitting and standing, declaring and demanding systemic change. Here in this here place, we remember and we commend Black students, allies, and accomplices who in the fall of 2015 once again stood up and marched and demanded accountability for the agreements made in 1968 and for the struggle of Black students, faculty, and staff every day in between 1968 and 2015 and even now, who have been the people who are the onlys, who have been the people who are the first in our communities on this campus and in the world. We honor you as well. This place has been fought for over and over again. May today be the day we stop having to fight for our place to be here. The rededication of 1914 Sheridan, the Black House, is the reverberation of the struggle and civil disobedience of Black students who have gotten loud because otherwise we were unheard. Black students whose presence was and continues to be an affront to an institution that was not created with us in mind. And The rededication of the Black House is the manifestation of the transformative labor of committed Northwestern leadership and members of the NU community who, with great integrity and steadfast attentiveness to the needs and voices of Black students and alumni, have endeavored to align their intent and their impact. Some leaders, such as Dr. Leslie Ann Brown Henderson and Dr. Julie Payne Kirschmeyer, who we will hear from today, and some like Dr. Patricia Tejas Irvin, whose spirit I know is present with us today. Here in this here place, may we begin to trust that true repair and reconciliation bears fruit, that those who have experienced harm and those who have caused it can both touch, taste, and share together. This here place is a living history and an unfinished testimony. To our current and future Black students, faculty, staff, and alumni, in the words of Mama Toni Morrison, here in this here place, we flesh. Flesh that weeps, laughs, flesh that dances on bare grass, when it's warm enough, of course. So love it hard. Yonder they do not love your flesh. This is the legacy of this here place. Of course, you will be developed academically and professionally, and you will continue to resist and challenge this institution, but in this here place, may you be beautifully Black and unapologetically human. Another foremother, Octavia Butler, once wrote, "There is nothing new under the sun, but there are new suns." May a new sun shine in this overcast day upon this house, and may a new sun shine upon us gathered here today and upon the Northwestern and Evanston community. I offer an amen and an ashe. You can join me in that. May it be so. I now invite Black House Renovation co-chairs, Dr. Julie Payne Kirschmeyer, Vice President of Student Affairs, and Dr. Leslie Ann Brown Henderson, Assistant Vice President for Inclusion and Chief of Staff in Student Affairs, to speak.
Jazzy, thank you. I have no other words other than thank you. That was everything. Again, as Jazzy said, my name is Julie Payne Kirschmeyer. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm honored to serve our students at Northwestern as the Vice President for Student Affairs, and my job today is to be excited and express how thrilled I am to welcome each of you here to this historic moment, where we can be together and celebrate something that has been a long time coming. I want to welcome our Northwestern leaders in attendance, our trustees, our senior leaders, our colleagues, and our president, Morty Shapiro. I want to welcome our Black alumni here for reunion weekend and acknowledge that there are those who are here with us today who didn't get an in-person reunion weekend last year and are here to join us at this time. To be here together in person, in community, I am hopeful fills all of our hearts and souls in a way that we have been missing for such a very long time. I do want to extend a special thanks and recognition to our Northwestern University Black Alumni Association members for their continued work to establish strong, lifelong connections between Black alums, our current Black students, and this university called Northwestern. We value you greatly. I also want to welcome our Black alumni from before the establishment of the Black House. You too are part of the legacy of this moment. Much like the foundation of a home, we could not be here without the foundation that you laid decades ago. And especially want to mention our guests, as Jazzy so eloquently said, who stood up and were heard and continue to stand up. The guests from the B100, members of that class that made us hear you, that advocated with words and actions for change, and that made a difference We are standing here because of you. I also want to echo the sentiments that Jazzy shared about additional special guests who are here. They may be here physically, or they're here in spirit because they've made that final journey before this time and didn't get to physically see it, but I know, and I feel that they are here with us today. And none more present for me than our former Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Patricia Tejas-Irvin, who helped set us on this path. And most importantly, I want to welcome our Black students here today. I hear some of you, see some of you over there. Welcome, welcome. Since its founding, the Black House has played a vital role in the experience of our Black students, and I want you to know this project has always, and I mean always, been about you. And so I, along with my colleague, friend, co-conspirator, and co-chair on this project, Dr. Leslie Ann Brown Henderson, whom you'll hear from in just a moment, have been co-chairing this initiative since the fall of 2016. At the very beginning of this project, we spoke openly and directly with our steering committee members and our architects about the spirit of this project. And so we learned from multiple reports, stories, pictures, recordings, and interviews housed in our archives. We heard directly from students, faculty, staff, and alumni through surveys, interviews, focus groups, feedback forms, and forums. Those are two different things, as Jazzy knows. And design charrettes. We learned from the voices from the Black House listening sessions from 2015, the Black Student Experience Task Force report, and many, many more. And through all of this work, the themes we heard were about feelings of home, of family, of community, about honoring the Black experience and centering Black voices, and about ensuring that the Black House intentionally connected, honoring our past with a strong focus on our future. And as I sit with all of that at this moment of not 5 years worth of work on this project, but decades worth of work and labor to be in this place, in this space, I came across a quote about 2 months ago, and I shared it with our Black House Steering Committee membership 2 nights ago. And it's been sitting really heavily with me, but in a powerful and fulfilling way. It is a quote from Dr. Maya Angelou, and in it she says, "The ache for home lives in all of us, the safe place where we can go as we are and not be questioned." I truly hope the Black House continues to be that space for each and every one of our Northwestern Black community. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being part of this legacy. I'd like to turn over to Dr. Leslie Ann Brown Henderson, our Assistant Vice President for Inclusion and Chief of Staff in Student Affairs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please bear with me. I'm going to take my time. It has taken us a minute to get here. Like Julie said, my name is Leslie Ann Brown Henderson. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Inclusion and Chief of Staff, and I've also served as the co-chair of the Black House Renovation since the beginning in 2016. A running joke I have with the Black House Renovation Steering Committee is that when this project started in 2016, I had no children, and now I'm weeks away from welcoming my 3rd child. I made it. We didn't know if I was going to make it, but I made it. While we can laugh together, the journey to this moment has been long and at times arduous, yet communal. This renovation has experienced every challenge and setback possible, including a global pandemic. And yet, by sheer will and determination of many, we have arrived at this historic moment of honor and celebration. After the difficult events of 2015, upon the direction of our late Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Patricia Tejas-Irvin, whose husband, Don Irving, is joining us today, we set out on a renovation process for the Black House. At that time, I shared the following comments. Here we stand at an important juncture in the community's history. We cannot go back to what was, nor can we stay where we are. We must move forward, and we can only do so together. I'm committed to staying the course because I believe Northwestern deserves a chance for its future to be brighter than its past. And the light that now shines so brightly throughout the renovated Black House is one that is reflective of new commitments and hope. And in moving forward, we do not forget the wounds of the past. Historic anti-Blackness, negligence, poor communication, which led to mistrust, fractures, pain, and despair. Instead, we acknowledge them, taking responsibility, hearing, listening, aligning our actions accordingly, opening ourselves up to new opportunities that lie ahead. In the words of the late and great Maya Angelou, history, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again. May this renovation be the turning of a page, unveiling of a new chapter in the history of Northwestern and its Black community. This renovation has been deeply relational, and there are so many that need to be acknowledged as collaborators in the process. First, I'd like to thank Moody Nolan Architect Firm for a spread around, whom we hired in 2016 to conduct a feasibility study of the Black House. Since that time, the Moody Nolan team have walked hand in hand with us as we've engaged every aspect of this project. I'd like to specifically thank Ronald Mitchell, a fellow of the American Institute of Architects, the fearless leader for the Chicago and DC operation of Moody Nolan, for his unyielding partnership and tenacity throughout this process. Additionally, to Cordero Oscar, Moody Nolan's project manager, thank you for your kindness and steadfastness. To Earl Lee, whose creative mind brought our storytelling vision to light, and Janet Hines, who partnered with Ann Van Ostel to make the house feel like a home with intentional design choices. Thank you. We are forever indebted to you for your intentional care with which you've approached this project. Additionally, I'd like to acknowledge Cornelius Griggs, who's in the crowd, President and CEO of GMA Construction Firm, Northwestern Black alumnus, for GMA's work on the project. And while there are many from GMA I could name, in particular, I want to thank Dave, project superintendent, for his passion on the project, and Will Ashcon, who has been the project manager to carry us across the finish line. To our university colleagues from facilities management who are around too, I thank Robert Carlton, Dave Stone, who I saw over here, Bonnie Humphreys, Jim Sira, Alex Dara, and countless others who have advocated and worked to ensure that this project was complete. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the many contributions of the Multicultural Student Affairs team who have served our Black students with resolve throughout this entire process, ensuring that there was a temporary space that was fully functioning stopgap for them, who centered Black students and their needs through their programs and services. And thank you to the campus inclusion leadership team who held me up through the ups and downs of this project, and to the entire team for their support. There was much intentionality put into every aspect of this project, which was overseen by the Black House Renovation Steering Committee. This group of students, alumni, faculty, and staff met monthly for the past 5 years to ask each other hard questions, hold one another accountable, and to ensure that the project was completed in a spirit of transparency, love, and intentionality. Additionally, there were 3 subcommittees formed: the Black House Policy Committee, led by Davry Velasquez-Phillip, now Executive Director of Campus Inclusion and Community, who worked to develop student-centered policies and procedures for the Black House. The Black House Curating the Space Committee, who considered the selection, placement, installation of art, images, furnishings, fixtures, and how these elements would work together to tell the story of the Black House and Black students to make it feel like a home. I'd like to highlight the beautiful new mural, which you'll see inside the house, that was created by Dwight White II, 2-time Northwestern alum, and I thank him enthusiastically for responding to my cold call to share his gift with all of us. Finally, the Black House Reopening Committee, who collaboratively planned the programs and events which have brought you all here today. Thank you to members of all these committees for their time and commitment to this project, which amounted to a finished space that will continue to serve as a hub for the Black student experience at Northwestern. As I reflect on the past 5 years, I must say, at times the challenges we faced seemed insurmountable. And yet, still we rose, just as Northwestern's Black community has done for decades. The resilience and courage that the B100, that those who came before them and after them have had to display to carve out a place for themselves at Northwestern continues to ground me and serves as a North Star for the work towards equity and justice that I and so many continue to do at Northwestern, alongside our students and for all of our students. For me, this renovation has required a reckoning of what was, what is, and what is to come. And as I look out to the crowd, I am humbled to have arrived at this juncture. And most importantly, that we have arrived here together. Thank you, Northwestern Black Alumni Association and the Northwestern community for entrusting us with this important project. May our efforts be reflective of our institutional commitment to continue to transform the culture from a place where Black students merely survive to a place where all students, particularly those who hold marginalized identities, can thrive. Now I'd like to welcome a beloved longtime faculty member, professor of history and African American studies, who's been a part of every aspect of this project, Dr. Henry Binford.
Good afternoon. I want to thank all those who have spoken before me and set such a remarkable bar. It's amazing. Jazzy and I were just talking before these events about how we long anticipated this day and are a little overwhelmed that it actually happened, and it's so many of you who have turned out. I have been professor of history and African American studies here since 1973. I am now on the brink of retirement, and like Jazzy, I was involved in this project from the beginning. She and I are I think the only two members of the steering committee who were here for the listing committee back in 2015. It has been an honor to be part of this committee, and I'll explain why in a moment. I have to say that obviously one of the reasons why I'm here is because I'm old. And I can remember a lot of things. If you're a historian, it's a little uncomfortable when you start remembering things that appear in textbooks. But that's what happens. I am one of the generation that came of age in the 60s and 70s. And I've studied US history, American history for decades now. I have been involved heavily in the history of race. And both as citizen and as scholar, I have learned that progress is often incomplete and limited, which makes it all the more important to recognize and celebrate the moments of true and unmitigated progress. This is such a moment. Back in 1973, I wasn't here, of course, for the heroic actions of the B100, but when I came in 1973, those days were still fresh in memory, and many people on this campus debated about whether the initiatives that had begun as a result of the occupation of the Bursars building would thrive, would prosper, because there were some in the university who were hostile to those initiatives. They had received support from the university, but they had not borne a whole lot of fruit in tangible form. Among the demands of the B100 was a program in African American studies. Yes, there was a program in African American studies in 1973, but it was tiny, it was underfunded, and it had trouble holding on to some faculty members whom it recruited. There were some really distinguished people involved in that program in the beginning. I think of Jan Carew, I think of Leon Forrest, I think of Jim Pitts, who is here today. Jim, where are you? There you are, right there. A hero 2 times over for what he did for Northwestern. There was a demand, in addition to the demands for African American studies and for more black faculty, for a place where black students at Northwestern could meet, could support each other, could provide a safe space for what was then a very white campus. And that demand, too, brought some fruit, first in 619 Emerson and then in this old house. There has been slow progress since then, but huge progress since then. This house has been beloved, but it has for a long time been in need of some TLC. And that was the mission that came before us in 2015. I should mention, by way of update, that if we look back at those demands that were made by the B100 in 1968 and take a long view of what has happened since then, there's a lot to celebrate. The program in African American Studies has become a Department of African American Studies, which is internationally recognized as one of the best such departments, not only in the United States, but internationally. Some of you probably know that one of our recent PhD alums from that Department of African American Studies just won a MacArthur Fellowship. So both in terms of faculty and in terms of the kind of students who are now coming through that department, there is a lot to celebrate. There was a demand for more black faculty, and now there are dozens. When I first came here, I was the second African American to be hired in the history department in a tenure line at Northwestern. Excuse me. And since that time, there were only less than a dozen, I would say, African American faculty in the whole university. There were so few of us that we could all meet for lunch in a tiny room in Norris Center every month. Now there are scores of black faculty throughout the university. We have had black deans and a black provost. So there too, much to celebrate. And now, in what I view as a kind of capstone, we have a lot to celebrate in this old, but now reinvigorated, renewed house. We are not done as a university in trying to fulfill the demands of the B100. But we've come a ways, and we celebrate and rededicate ourselves to doing more to make Northwestern the more inclusive, the more supportive, the more whole place that has been sought for so many years. It has been an honor for me to serve on this committee, which is likely to be my last committee at Northwestern. I've been here since 1973. I've been on a lot of committees. But I gotta say, this is the best. And it's the best not only because what we did and what we are proud of, but of how we did it. We drew in the series of committees that have been working over the last 5, 6 years from all parts of the university, from students, from alumni, from faculty, from staff, from people who were brought here to do the work that we could not do within. I am honored to have been part of an effort with Moody Nolan. Some of you may not have noticed, but Moody Nolan won an award this past year as one of the best architecture firms in the United States. Not one of the best black architecture firms, but one of the best architecture firms in the whole country. So from my point of view, thinking back over the whole time I've been here, thinking back over all those committees, thinking back over what it took to get to this place, I'm very proud of what we have done. Lots to do still, but I am very proud of what we did. For me, this was an experience that brought together the best of Northwestern from all fronts in a collaborative, intentional, constructive, mostly harmonious effort to produce the result that you see behind us. We had a dinner a couple of nights ago, just the committee and Moody Nolan, to celebrate what happened. And at the end of that dinner, I felt like we need to start organizing reunions for just the committee, because it had become such an important part of my life. It has become like family for me. I'm a little sad to see the committee end, although the ending of our committee means the birth of this house. So this is something to celebrate. You can take my word for it as a historian, as a faculty member, as somebody who's been through a lot of versions of African American Northwestern. We did it, here and now. So I want to end, this is what people usually do at the beginning of speeches, but I want to end by some thanks. I thank my fellow committee members, some of whom are represented here. I thank President Shapiro, who at a very critical moment in thinking about what to do here, stepped forward and offered to support us fully, and he has at every step of the way. I thank Patricia Tejas-Irvin in spirit. She's the one who persuaded me to join the first of these committees in the beginning, even though I was a little skeptical. You know, as somebody who came of age in the 60s and 70s, I have a deep-seated and abiding and probably never shakable kind of cynical streak within me that always questions what authority is up to. But Patricia Tejas-Irvin and all the other representatives of authority here poured forth their best efforts in accomplishing the result that we see before us. So I have two closing things to say. One is, have a good time. This is the time to celebrate, and especially to honor the men and women who sit before you, the B100, the representatives of the B100, without whom we wouldn't be here. None of this would be happening. They're the ones who are the true hosts of this event, this celebration. And I want to thank all the representatives of the committee who aren't present today. It's been a great experience. It's been a kind of capstone experience for me in my career at Northwestern. I feel like I can retire now and say, no more committees, please. But this was a good one. So the second thing I want to say is celebrate, enjoy this moment, remember this moment, but keep on keeping on. We have a lot to do. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce the head of the Northwestern Black Alumni Association and Herman Cage, who is representing the B100 here on stage.
Good afternoon, and you. All right, alumni, family, friends, we did it. My name is Marianne Marsh. I'm an 85 alumna, an NULC member, and NUBA's current president. Look what we can do when we work together in love and respect towards a common goal. This is awesome. I am very honored to be here with all of you to celebrate the most significant occasion in my Northwestern journey. But this journey began with you, our B100 guests today, who paved the way for so many of us here just a little over 50 years ago. The journey continues with all of you, our esteemed alumni and friends who have stayed the course. And Northwestern students, you, who will continue to call this space your own. Please love it, cherish it. Our sincerest gratitude to Julie Payne-Kirschmeyer and Leslie Ann Brown-Henderson. Thank you so much. Your incredible staff as well, who never strayed from this mission that has finally brought us to this moment. All of us here together, like Jazzy says, in this place, to celebrate this new, exciting chapter in a storied history of our beloved Black House. To all those who made this possible, we will love it, we will cherish it, and we will honor this place. I would now like to invite Herman Cage, a member of the B100, to offer a few remarks.
It's a pleasure and honor to be here. I'm Herman Cage, a member of the class of '69 and '73. In the fall of 1968, the Black House and the May 4th Agreement became tangible proof of Northwestern's commitment to the B100 actions. On a personal note, this was amazing to me because it meant that for the first time the university was going to address my needs, my concerns, my fears, my loneliness, and my isolation as a student. We already had our own group for community. It was called FMO. And now we had our own space. The space I'm talking about is the one on 619. It was a safe space, a sacred space, uniquely ours, where we could be our own authentic selves, where we could simply hang and talk a whole lot of smack. Over the years, there's been some concerns about whether NU was still committed. In May of 2018, the then Provost Holloway opened the 50th anniversary celebration by simply saying, "Welcome home." And when he said that, he spoke to my heart and my soul. It's as if he was saying, "Welcome home, brothers and sisters. We have your back." Today, as a NUBA alum and a proud B100 member, I have something to tell you. The Black House is back. The safe space, the sacred space, the refuge is now available whether you're an incoming freshman for the class of 2025 or you're a 50-year alumni. It's yours. And it's our legacy to the future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Herman, for those words, emotional as they are. And we are delighted to share this day with you B100 members here with us for this moment. On behalf of the NUBA board and our alumni members, we thank you, Morty Shapiro, for dedicating these last few years to seeing the Northwestern community through accomplishing this amazing goal. We offer you our deepest appreciation. Please let's welcome our esteemed president, a man after the last couple of years I can humbly call my friend, Morty Shapiro.
I want to thank all the speakers, and Herman, you made me cry. You made yourself cry and made a number of us cry. It's just what you fought for, along with your classmates and friends, and put your body and your soul on the line, your careers on the line, never taking no for an answer, and always demanding justice. And it's an honor to be on a stage with you. And Marianne, I adore you. Prayed for you when you needed it, and continue to take great pride in calling you as a friend. Henry, you've been such a pioneer and such an incredibly important member of this community for so long. Leslie Ann, I adore you. Julie, I adore you. And Jazzy, when I hugged you before, I said, how much I miss you. You're one of the favorite students I've ever seen here in my 13 years. And you know, it occurs to me now that for the first time in 170 years, we're going to have a president here who is not a white man. When Becky Blank comes in, I was listening to you, and you always struck me as one of the most inspiring speakers I've ever heard, and I was thinking, I want to be here at your induction when you're president of Northwestern. That's something, God willing, I would love to see. So get that PhD, come back here, and take us to a whole nother level. So gratitude, I just want to thank a few other people. I was so glad. I was going to mention Don Patricia Tejas Irvin, whom I think about every week. One of the most inspiring, dignified, lovable people I have ever had the honor with whom to work. A person of faith and a person of dignity, as I said, and a person of the greatest integrity. And she would have loved this today, Julie and Leslie Ann. We have her in our heart. And I was so glad that Jazzy and everybody mentioned her. Herman, I'm so glad about the standing on the shoulders of the B100, and I had the great honor to welcome a number of you back a couple of years ago with Jonathan Holloway. And you know, we stand on your shoulders, we're so proud, and we understand the responsibility, as Professor Bickford pointed out, that the journey is far from over. There might be some progress, but there's so much progress that needs to be done. And on your behalf and in your honor, I can tell you, over my last year, I'm going to continue to do what I can, and I know that this institution will do what it can, but we always recognize that what you did to change this institution will never be replicated by anyone else. So I ask the members of the B100 maybe to stand up and wave their hands so we could recognize them the way they deserve to be. To the current students and faculty and staff, I thank you for the confidence that you've had in this institution and for never settling, for forcing and encouraging all of us, myself included, to learn from our mistakes, to look inside our souls and to realize how we could do a better job. And I know that your ongoing advocacy to make this the kind of place full of justice will be, I hope, eventually completely represented in the Northwestern of our dreams. But in the meantime, without you pushing us, we would never realize how far we have to go. So I salute the students, the faculty, and the staff of Northwestern University. And lastly, to the Board of Trustees, we have a number of people out there that when COVID hit and all the projects were stopped and everything, and Julie and I made a presentation to the board saying, okay, I understand you're not going to do Jacobs. I understand you're not going to do mud science. I understand you're not going to do this. Please, you have to do Black House. This community demands it. This community needs it. This community deserves it. And when I got this tour, Leslie Ann, a couple of months ago when I went in here, I did fill my eyes with tears thinking about what price people have paid to bring us to this day and how this building and the programs in it are going to propel us forward. So without further ado, let's cut the ribbon and let's get in there and celebrate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Morty. We're going to get set over here. I see scissors. I will not run with them. But as they're gathering, I do want to acknowledge the people who helped plan this event today. Our folks in Alumni Relations and Development, Global Marketing Communication, the President's Office, our Multicultural Student Affairs team, Campus Inclusion Community, and what we refer to as the Dream Team of Ronnie Toka, Regan Lindsay, and Brianna Rodriguez.
Just a few really quick reminders. Right after we cut the ribbon, we're going to invite everyone in for refreshments. There are refreshments throughout the building, and please take it all in. But first, we would like to ask for those with mobility impairment or who need a little bit extra time getting into the building to come in first. So if we would please allow them to come in, and then we will open the doors to everyone else. There will be tours of the space starting at the front desk. So you can go to the front desk and get a tour every 20 minutes. We have mementos for everyone. We ask you to please take one so there's enough for everyone. We will be masking indoors. Oh, I should have taken my mask off. We'll be masking indoors, so please remember to put your mask back on in between your bites and your sips. There is a rededication. Our reception will conclude at 5:30, and then we invite you to join the Wildcat warm-up and pep rally on Deering Meadow. And then at 6 o'clock at the rear, there's a tent. There's the NUBA Welcome Back reception, co-sponsored by the Black Professionals Network. So we invite you back for that. Now we are ready to cut the ribbon. I'm gonna count down.
Okay, I'm just going to pose right now, right?
Everybody look at the camera. Look at the camera, sir.
Okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Could you guys stay there for 1 second? Stay there for 1 second. Can I take these?
One more picture.
One more picture, please. Okay, there we go.
Quick picture.
Okay, there we go. Right here now, please. Thank you.
Welcome home, everyone. Welcome home. Those with mobility impairment, please come to my right. B100 members, there'll be some direction for you. We invite everyone to come in just a few minutes.